Hey everyone, I'm back in the greenhouse this week and we're going to go over one of the best kept secrets in organic gardening. In the vegetable growing world and a lot of the organic food production side of gardening, actively aerated compost tea is kind of the secret to people producing large pumpkins, large crop harvests, and other things in the organic world. First of all, with compost tea, there's actively aerated and then there's kind of a stagnant tea. I don't prefer the stagnant tea because it tends to smell, and what you're really cultivating is anaerobic bacteria and fungi, things that thrive without oxygen. So think root rot, think things that smell funky. So actively aerated really breeds that aeration, those aerobic bacteria and fungi. The goal of brewing these bacteria and fungi is that it's going to replicate this bacteria and fungi colony at the same time, and then you're going to feed that into your root system as essentially like a probiotic for plants, essentially. So it's going to get in the root zone and fight off that root rot, fight off that pythium and all the other different parasites that you have in your root zone. And when you spray this on your plants and water it on the root zone, it really has a significant effect. Monica would always say after I spray compost tea on our plants, it would just kind of make the garden jump, like the leaves kind of stand straight up. Now, if you have veggies in your garden, this is like a super hack. You should do this as much as you can. And it's very important that you use this compost tea within 24 hours of brewing it. That's also why I can't sell it. I figured I'd share the secret with you guys. You can brew it, but make sure you use it within 24 hours because it is alive. And if you leave it out unaerated, stagnating, and in an anaerobic zone, it's going to smell funky and it's going to be not good for your plants. I've never had any adverse effects in spraying compost tea or putting it on my root zone. Make sure to spray the undersides of the leaves as well as the top sides of the leaves. That's where a lot of the stoma or stomata are located on these plants. They're going to be sucking in the compost tea is through those pores on their leaves. Okay, so we're going to now make our own batch of compost tea. First thing up is a bucket. The 5-gallon works great. I filled it up between these two lines. This line and this bottom, right in the middle, is 2 gallons. If you're doing a lot of organic gardening, I might suggest that you get a water dechlorinator. This hooks on to your garden hose. It's made by a company up in Northern California by the name of Brew, I believe. This thing is great. I think it's like 80 or $100, but it takes the chlorine and chloramine out of your water. So if you do aquaponics or anything with fish, you make sure to hook this up before you put in that water because it's going to kill your fish. Now, if we're doing propagation and things like that, hydrogen peroxide, bleach, keep all that stuff away from this. In this, we're cultivating that bacteria and fungi, so we don't want to kill it off. So make sure you don't use tap water here, but you use distilled water. You might be able to use like filtered water from like Sparklets or one of the big companies. As the name implies, the most important thing in your compost tea is compost. You can also use worm castings for that. I really like to do that, but I don't have any on hand right now. But this is just a really good like mulchy compost, and I'm going to use a handful of this. I've done it where I can just throw it in the bucket and strain it all out at the end, but it just tends to get a little more messy. So this is my cheesecloth with the compost inside of it, and I just put a zip tie at the end of it to close it. Just hang it off the side of the bucket, make sure it submerges in water. Now that we have our life in our water, that bacteria and our fungi, we're gonna add in the food source for that life. I've got powdered sugar here. Technically, you're supposed to use blackstrap molasses. That's what I typically use, but I don't have it on hand. This will suffice, and it worked perfectly well on the batch I did last night. So I'm gonna do 1 heaping spoonful of sugar per gallon of water, just like that. This is one of my favorite additives to put in. I've had this bag forever. It's from Extreme Gardening. This is not a plug. None of this is sponsored. But this is Mycorrhizal, I always mess up that name, fungi. So essentially this is that one of those building blocks in that compost. You're likely gonna have a mycorrhizal fungi inside there with some other good bacteria. But this is exactly specific strains of fungi. It's a bit of like a sand, but I'll just kind of take like a bit of a handful and sprinkle it in. You can't really do too much of it, but you want to have a good balance between fungi and bacteria. I also like to add in a kelp extract. This is a good food source for your fungi because it's a more complex carb. You could use other ground up vegetables technically because it's a complex carbohydrate like a starch. This is just from our site. It's called Root Booster. I put in a bunch of different organic additives into this. I do 1 ml of this per gallon of water. So here I'm going to do 2 mLs of this into the water. Again, this is optional. Just one of my kind of secret additives I like to do in my compost tea. So our water is already kind of taking shape. So like I said, I'm just going to hang my cheesecloth down into the water. You're going to need an air pump. This is just a 2-outlet one from Amazon. The air hoses that come with it, they came with the kit, and these are anti-siphons. So essentially if you put the air pump on the ground, it doesn't suck back in the water. And then a couple air stones. And again, I hope you guys are relating the amount of aeration with like good roots and healthy root systems versus overwatering and suffocating your root systems, and then all the bad bacteria and fungi that come with that decaying decomposition, which is necessary on planet Earth, but we don't want it happening to our houseplants. Nice to have, but not mandatory, is a waterproof thermometer. These are like $4 or $5 on Amazon. This is good to keep the brewer at between about 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That will really depend on your air temperature around it. It's been about 85 in here, and I've had to brew this for 24 hours, and you can go up to about 48 hours. But you want to make sure that it's bubbling and creating these kind of foamy bubbles while it's on and aerating. So this is a batch I've had running since yesterday. It's 24 hours in. I shut it off, so you're going to see less bubbles in here, but you want to see foamy bubbles while you're brewing it, and kind of at that 24-hour mark, you're going to see these big bubbles, and they'll kind of start crawling up the side. The more of those, the better, and again, it should smell good. But as you can see, it looks like a tea. It smells kind of like sweet garden water, but it definitely doesn't smell bad, and that's really important. And then finally, as I said, use that compost tea up as quickly as you can, ideally in 24 to 48 hours, but you'll know when it goes bad because it will smell bad. Spray it on your leaves, water it on your root zone, make sure not to overwater your plant. It's not magic, but it really has remarkable results. Also, I'm not an expert on this. I've done it a lot in the past. I've gotten really good results from it. I just don't know everything about it. So if you know more than I do, feel free to share with other people in the comments. That's always a good learning process for us all. And there's tons of recipes you can look up online and different ways. People get really crazy and particular in how they make their compost tea. So check out some forums, look around, and just Google different compost tea recipes. You'll see a bunch of stuff out there. But the process is pretty much the same. Real quick, because I probably will get someone in the comments talking about this, the scientific link between most species of plants and mycorrhizal fungi is established. Now in the Araceae family of plants, philodendron and monstera, its connection to mycorrhizal fungi is, I believe, species dependent. It hasn't been directly established, but almost every other plant has an incredible relationship with this. But I can definitely tell you that almost all my plants react to it well. Kind of bro science, no hard evidence there, but it does work really well with my plants. It will work well with almost all plants. So thanks you guys so much for watching this week's video. If you did enjoy the video or learn something new, click the like button down below and consider subscribing. We put out a new video about houseplants once a week, and it's soon to be more. And we're trying to push out more shorts. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next Saturday. Have a good day.